there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another video. Once again, it is Sovereign Saturday. Sovereign men don't compromise their principles. And this is kind of part one of something I'm doing on Sovereign Saturdays. I'll do part two. I'm not going to talk about call it principles, just wait till next week. But principles, your principles are what you stand for, and you don't violate them. You don't compromise them. And that's the thing. You have to keep them. See, understand something with a man. Your looks are going to change. Your weight is going to change. Your money's going to change one way or the other. Hopefully it's changing by going up, but it can always go down. You know, you can have the big home and that can burn down. You could lose that nice car, or you might not have a car. No matter what, all of those are material things. All of those are the outside. What a man has to have are principles that he lives by. And I'm going to get deeper into that next week with another word. But you have to have principles, things that you stand on no matter what. And when you have those principles, you don't compromise them. You don't compromise them. You know, you got to have, look, here's the thing. You might have some things you compromise on, and that could be a principle of yours, some things. But there's some level as a man, you're not going to go. You're not going to do. You're not going to engage in. Like one of my principles is, as much as I love money, there's certain things I'm not going to do for money. There are certain things I'm not going to do. I don't care. I mean, you know, people hit me up sometime and they be like, hey, Rom, you should have 1 million subs. Or, you know, how come you don't talk about this, this, and this? Because it goes against my principles. See, a man has to have that principle, his ideas, because all that other stuff is useless. Indeed, you know, even how you deal with women, you got to have a certain principles that you go by. Like certain women you're not going to deal with, certain things you're not going to do. One of mine is if a woman is drunk, I'm not going to have sex with her. You know, I'm not going to have sex with her, even if we're in a relationship. And reason why I don't ever want a woman to say I forced something or I took something. That's one of my principles. Another one of my principles are the things I'm not going to do just in general. And I have a whole lot of them. And you got to have that. You got to stand on it, because I'm going to tell you what. You know, an old saying was a man's word is his bond. That's all he had. Because as I just stated, you know, everything else can go. Your money can go up and down. Your very physical appearance can go up and down. You know, everything changes. But when you reach that core, that's when you're really sovereign. In fact, one of your principles is not just listening to these videos or watching these videos and say, oh, yeah, that sounds good. If you're going to be a sovereign man, that got to be a principle. You got to have a principle of like, no, this is what I'm going to do. Like say your principle is to always work for yourself. And yeah, there's some situations where you might have to work for someone else, you know, depending on the circumstances. But let me hit you with, if you have the principle of always working for yourself, you're going to find a way to do it. You are going to find a way to do it. You're going to do whatever you got to do to stay independent, because that's your principle. You're going to do whatever. If you got, hey, if you got to have like 3 or 4 hustles at the same time, you're going to do it if that's your principle. Or it could be to, you know, if you in like some organization, say you're in a military organization and you really, that's your purpose to serve your country. Okay, you said, okay, I'm gonna give my life to this. I'm gonna stand on those principles. I'm gonna stand on my pledges. That's the thing. Because that's all you have. That's the one, I'm gonna tell you what, that's the thing you have 100% control over. You don't have control over, ultimately, you can try to you want to exercise control over your home, but you never know what's going to happen. You never know what the circumstances are. And you never know when a natural disaster will destroy it. You know, the other day I was telling someone, someone was telling me about, they knew someone, I'm more acquainted with the person, but they were just in a building that burned down to the ground. That can go. All this material stuff can disappear. Some you think is valuable materially its value can go down literally overnight. You know, you got people who maybe own stocks and everything, ownership, that stock can go down overnight. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. But your principles are with you no matter what. No matter whether you like sleeping on the street or whether you sleeping on a mansion. You still have those principles, and you have to really stay strong with them. And you don't compromise them, because I'm going to tell you what, the 1 second that you compromise your principles, that's when it's really all over. Because if you can't stand on your principles, if you can't honor them, if all somebody has to do is, I don't know, it could be anything, hang you some money, a woman give you some pussy, and you compromise your principles, you done compromise the deepest core of just being a man. That's the one thing you have 100% control over. And then you are no longer living by your will. You're living by somebody else's will. Because they know they can get you to do stuff, you know? Because I'll use another example on here. People know they constantly, there's always somebody saying, will you do this? Or will you do a video about this? And I don't even respond anymore. I just delete the comment. That's how I've gotten. Because my principle is, I have an agenda. I'm sticking to that agenda. Even if somebody asks me something related to it. Because one of the things is, my principle is doing stuff according to my will, my time, when I want to do it. Because that principle has been with me all my life, working to the point of controlling my life. If I start violating it because somebody wants some random thing, that'll be like, oh, wait. Nah, you compromising something. Even when people have offered money for me to talk about something, I'm saying, I don't talk about that. Because my principles only talk about what I want to talk about to stick with my agenda. You got to be that way, like nothing. Because the second you compromise it, I'm going to emphasize this, the second you compromise your principles, that's the second you compromise your sovereignty. Because that's how movements have been stopped. That's how men who have had great ideas, you know, they've been stopped in their tracks. They compromise for money. They compromise for some pussy. You know, and not even for that woman, she fine and everything. But if this is where you want to live, this is what you want to do, this is how you even want to worship God. No, that was your principles. You don't compromise them. All right. You want to be that sovereign man, never compromise your principles. And there's a part 2 to all of this. I'm going to get into this next week. All right. So in the meantime, keep rising to develop your sovereignty. Never compromise your principles, and peace and blessings.